IPL retention rules, that's what everyone is on the lookout for. While we do await from the BCCI as to what the official word is, but credible sources at the moment telling us here on Sports Today what is it that we can expect. We have a fair bit of idea. It is just a matter of time before it gets that final seal of approval from the BCCI, but we have an idea as to what you can expect from that official announcement as far as the IPL retention rules for the upcoming mega auction is concerned. Also, what we're getting to know right now is that the auction is likely to take place in the month of November. A big surprise coming in the size of the purse. This is something that not many were talking about. We're here to give you all those details as we build up to the mega auction, and as far as an official word is concerned, it can come anytime is what we're learning right now. Nikhil joining me as we build up to it, as we give you details that we've gathered over here. So without wasting any more time, let me quickly get to what exactly is it that we know as far as the IPL is concerned. We will quickly tell you what that purse amount is going to look like. Shivam, if you could help me get out of this. There you go. This is what we know as far as the mega auction is concerned. The first bit, the one that we have right up here mentioned for you, the purse is set to be increased to 120 crores. 115 to 120 crores is what we are expecting that purse amount to be, but at max 120 crores. So at the moment you saw the 100 crore purse limit that was as far as the mini auction goes, the one that we saw last year. In fact, from 95 crores it went to 100 crores. Teams were given an additional 5 crores, but now Nikhil, that amount is going to increase by another 20 crores. Inflated prices, bigger squad size, what are we to expect here? How do you look at this move?
I mean, the first things first, you would want about 20 odd crore to increase, right? You're having about a couple of years after the mega auctions that you had, 22 to now, 21, 22 to now. So it's about 2-3 year period that you're having auctions. So a 20 crore increase, was expected. So I'm not too surprised looking at that. In fact, generally, and that's been my stand for some time now, that the purse is anyway less. I think you need to increase the purse because eventually I feel the players need to be paid a bit more compared to what the franchises as well as the BCCI is making. We've seen one good thing happen today, that there is an additional sort of match fees that the players will get, but that will also come out of the BCCI coffers, not so the franchise. But I think even franchises can afford to spend even more money to organize their squads at the moment. But yeah, right now, see, what's the one thing that stands out from the last auction? You have the big points, if I can say. 20 crore increase from 100 crore, you've gone to 120 crore. Secondly, the highest amount of players that you can keep. The earlier highest was in 2018, which was you could keep 5. But this now becomes 6 because you can keep 5 retentions and a right to match. So this actually means that you can retain about 6 players from your previous squad, which is the highest in its history. So 20 crore increase, 6 players that you can keep, that's the highest in the history. But the amount of money that you would be spending is also going to be 75 crore if you're using all your 5 retentions, and then of course right to match will cost you even more. So out of 120 crore, you're going to be spending a good, if you're going with all 6, just a rough example, about 85 crore you'll be done with 6 players if you keep all 6, and then you are left with about 35 odd crore to have a 20 member or an 18 member.
18, I think minimum 18, maximum 25, right?
Yeah, so a minimum 18 member squad to have that. You will have about 35 odd crore to ensure that, which I know on the face of it for a lot of people would look surprising, but I think you can still make it. Most teams end up making that kind of a squad with that much money, because you don't spend if you've got about 6, you're effectively looking at making the rest of them, which is possible. So it's not going to be a major surprise for you to do it. You could have a lot of uncapped players. It's actually, you make that squad of 18, but you're effectively using 12, 13 players. So that is possible with some lesser players. You can do it. Whether all players will, whether all teams will do that or not is another thing. The other thing which really caught my eye is the is the amount of money that is going to break down. You know, you have 18, 14, 11, and then it goes back to 18 and 14, something like that for player 5 and player C. So that is now interesting. So what they've typically done is that if you were to just retain the 3 players, if you just retain 3, then you only end up consuming about 43 odd crore. So if you're just consuming 43 crore, with those 3 players, then you are left with so much more. So those 2 remaining players, if you go for them, players number 4 and players number 5, that is going to set you back with a lot of money, almost, going back to 40-50% of what you're
Yeah,
anyway
because
spending.
because that
So
also will
that's going to
again
be
be
interesting.
18 and 14. So 32 crores over there if you go for a fourth and a fifth retention. That is
Yeah.
something. So yeah, that is something. It'll be interesting to see how teams get their head around that. But to the point that you were saying, we have that here on the screen as well for everyone joining us right now. Teams are going to be allowed 6 retentions, but the bifurcation there is, the split over there is 5+1. The one RTM option gets given to the franchise. There was no RTM in the previous auction that we saw. It was scrapped after a point, but then it makes a return. In fact, it was a moot point between the franchises in that meeting that took place, I think, in the month of July, August, when all teams had met at the BCCI headquarters. We got reports of certain teams not being on the same page. KKR, I remember, were one of those teams that weren't happy with how a PBKS and an SRH went into with their demands for the mega auction. So teams were at loggerheads. There were some teams who wanted up to 7 and 8 RTMs as well, but there were also a couple of teams that didn't want any RTM to be there as well. However, RTM now making a return, and teams could be given one RTM option as well. Again, this was again a Nikhil move that that saw teams and franchises being very split about. But clearly, the number we were all sort of looking at, maybe upwards of 3, 5 as well, as many were saying, it doesn't look like you're looking at those many RTMs. One RTM at the moment, and it sort of changes the way teams are now going to be looking at their retentions.
Yeah, let's listen to Siddharth also. What do you make of it, Siddharth?
Siddharth, I
Yeah,
believe.
first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, one second. Yeah, yeah. Siddharth, go on.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Actually, I was not really sure whether I was a part of the meeting room or not because I couldn't really get it. But yeah, that's okay. I feel that first of all, increasing the purse to 120 crore is obviously a good move. But then I think BCCI have been very smart with this kind of a move also, because that if the teams are going to have a maximum of, let's say, 5 retentions, and there's going to be one RTM card also, that if you have to spend two 18 crores on two of the players, I think this is where I think that teams would really go into a deep thought as to whether you would really want to make that move or not. And that's where I personally feel that maybe, just maybe, that this is where I think a lot of strategies would be done, because as obviously it's been clearly specified that you can have a total of 5 retentions, but whether the franchises would want to spend 18 crores on two players, on two players each, I'm not really sure about it. So this is where I think I'm not really sure whether all the teams would have 5 retentions each. There's a good chance that most of the franchises would be restricted to about, say, maybe 2 or 3 retentions. Maybe in case of a Mumbai Indians or a Chennai Super Kings, they can still maybe go for a 4 or 5 retentions each, because they do have most of their core that has been there for the past few years. So that's where I think it's a smart move.
See, I'll tell you what. See, most teams, if I'm looking at it logically, most teams are going to go with 3 retentions, and they can still use 3 rights to match cards as well. See, eventually it's 6.
Yeah.
So the interesting bit is, if you go into retention, you do the first 3 at 18, 14, 11. It's sensible, and then you're done about 43 CR in that. That's sensible. You do it. And then now you have the rest of the purse, which is close to about 80 or 76 or whatever, crore you have to fill the rest of the players. Now, this will also allow you the option of having 3 of your more players, which you were anyway going to with right to match. So you can do either or. So right to match is not just one, you can do either or, which is, I think, interesting. If it indeed is going to be exactly this way, we're still waiting for the final, official confirmation to come. But if it is indeed this way as is being expected, then I think it's interesting logically for most teams retain three players, then the remaining three who you want to, instead of retaining two more on going for right for match for one, go for right for match for all three, because it is a possibility the two remaining are at so high at 18 and 14 that you might get them at a cheaper price if you feel like that. But I think this will also, the most interesting bit is it will depend from team to team. If you're a team like Mumbai Indians, you have such big players that even your 4 and 5 might go for 18 and 14 or even more than that. Then what you're doing, no, I don't want to reach a situation of right for match, because there's a chance I'm going to be spending about 20, 22 odd crore for that same player at 4 or 5. So what am I doing? No, I'm retaining my 4th and 5th and then going for right for match for the 6th player. So I think it will depend team to team. But the logical thing, if I'm not looking at team per se, and because we're not going to look at every team individually, where I think 3 retentions, 3 right to match, perfect option, but teams will look at it. And the other thing, all of us might say that you're going to be looking at it logically and you might sit, but typically if you've seen auctions, you know what, each team's DNA comes onto the fore on the table. So team like Mumbai Indians will want to retain their players because they consider their team more than a family. They can fight over captaincy, who stays, who doesn't stay, but they will spend their money on those big players. Doesn't matter how few they have in their kitty when they go for the big auction. Doesn't matter. They will still go by their philosophy. Then you'll have a team like Punjab Kings, who may have the best players on the planet, but they will let go of everyone, barring a few players, which is a good thing. They keep their the catchment area players usually. They want the ones that they retain. So they may retain those ones. Then you'll have a team like SRH, which will let go of the big guns because they feel that they've splurged a lot on them, but keep some young at cheaper price upcoming sort of player. But that won't happen because you now will have to pay that much higher amount. But this is what I'm saying is the team DNA. What will also be interesting, and I think this is something that we can all dwell on, is going to be the other thing that is being reported, that anyone who's retired from cricket from 5+ years will now be looked at as an uncapped player. Uncapped player, we do not know what the retention amount is, but I'm going by the last time. I remember it was 4 CR. At the last auction, when it was the last time this was used for an uncapped player, retention was 4 CR. So that becomes interesting for a player like MS Dhoni, for Chennai Super Kings. They can use him as one of their retention and yet not end up using their 75 crore, because one of their retention could come at just 4 CR, which could be an MS Dhoni, and that could be a game changer. It will not happen for a lot of teams because I don't think there are too many players that have retired for over 5 years and are still playing. So it's not going to play out for a lot of teams, but for like CSK, MS Dhoni, that's going to be very interesting.
Indeed. Yeah. So, Siddharth, you want to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Even I was also coming to that point only because this was one of those things that was widely speculated when all the rumors were doing the rounds, that they could be about 5 to 6 retentions, that they could also be the thing that if you have to retain one of the players like MS Dhoni, that you would want to have this uncapped thing, as to the players who are actually retired for more than 5 years, you would want them still back in your team. But if I look at any of the other teams, as even I think Nikhil also rightly pointed, I don't think there are any players, to be very honest. So that's where I think this might just go on to benefit CSK also. And also there's also good chance that that Dhoni might still continue to play for CSK, because in the limited role that he has had for them in the past couple of seasons, keeping wickets throughout, then coming into bat at 7, 8 or 9 and playing those, I think, crucial knocks. I think CSK wouldn't really mind that, because with Dhoni, it's never just about the brand value also that he brings to the Chennai Super Kings, but it's also about the impact that he has had for them in the last couple of seasons, be it, with the bat or behind the stumps.
Yeah, but the one thing everyone's wondering right now, and I want to know it from the two of you, given whatever limited details that we have right now about what the purse value is, what the retentions are going to be costing, like, Are there any names or any teams that are in pole position? Yes, with that one thing that you just spoke about with Mahendra Singh Dhoni, if that rule is changed about uncapped players or players who haven't played for 5 years, they get that they get to save up on some money. However, with the details that we know, with the purse amount increasing, retentions likely to cause 18, 14, 11, do we see any teams having some sort of an advantage over here?
I mean, teams with a good bunch of players will always be at an advantage. But as I said, there are also teams that sometimes have good bunch of players, but it's in their DNA to just get rid of the squad because they don't do well. So, advantage, disadvantage, I don't know. Again, typically, if you are allowing the most, that is 6 in the history of the IPL, I think all teams should be at an advantage because they can then retain their core, which is important. Because the one thing that we spoke about was that, every year IPL, you allow them to go back, teams just keep changing, their looks. So why do you do that? At least allow some big players to be there. So if most teams go with that, which I think is the safest option, go with the 3 retentions and wait for 3 right to match because you might get them cheaper. I think that's the right way to go about it, which most team may consider. You can reduce that right to match a bit also. Most team, because every team, if you look at it, they'll have few players that you would definitely want to keep. You can go across. But as I said, there have been teams in the past that have chosen not to. They've fallen out with the players or because they've not done well. So I mean, that will be a different strategy. Maybe tomorrow, day after, we sit and we can examine each team and then probably do a role play where if we were to decide what right to match card or who should be people that we retain, who should we go for. But I think a team like Mumbai Indians, like top of my head, they'd be very happy because as I mentioned that it's always been a case of they didn't do that well last time around, but we all know that wasn't primarily down to the personnel that they have. That had a lot to do with what was happening off the field and the whole controversy that happened. So I think even now, if I'm Mumbai Indians, I would want to retain all my top guns. There are speculations, yes, that players want to leave, but I'm guessing if some of them are not happy, if the top management, which treats them like family, goes to them and says, I want Surya Kumar Yadav to stay, Jasprit Bumrah to stay, Rohit Sharma to stay, Hardik Pandya to stay, all of them, Ishan Kishan to stay. I mean, just talking about some 5-6 players that they always would want to. They'd retain this 5 and probably use a right to match for another player going forward. So, I mean, for a team that believes in team culture and likes continuity, it's a great thing. But then there are those that don't believe in that. So for them, it doesn't matter. You give them 5 retentions and 6 right to match or whatever you got.
Yeah, even I also feel the same that in case of, say, maybe Mumbai Indians or a Kolkata Knight Riders, I think they would be one of the very few teams who would want to retain maybe more than 3 players, let's say 4, it could be even 5 also. But then if I come to a team like, let's say, Delhi Capitals, just for example, that there's a good chance that a certain Akshar Patel and a Kuldeep Yadav would more than likely be retained. They would not, I think, go into the auction. And there's a good chance that there's no RTM thing.
Rishabh Pant, Jake Fraser McGurk.
But the point is that DC would be in a fix. So let's say, if they have to think about, retaining someone like a Jake Fraser McGurk or a Tristan Stubbs also, so far, they have just performed in one season. So there is obviously a good chance that, you would first of all, want to see whether they can be, consistent or not. So that's where there would be in a fix that whether you would want to give a certain Jake Fraser McGurk an 11 crore or whether you would want to retain maybe a Tristan Stubbs for 14 crore. Well, this is something that they would really have to ponder, because if they release them and if they can probably get the likes of Fraser McGurk and Tristan Stubbs for a lesser amount by RTM card, I think it would still benefit them. So I think for Mumbai and KKR, I think things are pretty much sorted. But for most of the franchises, I think it's what I think Nikhil has rightly pointed. It's going to be 3 retentions and maybe 3 RTMs.
But 3 RTMs, Nikhil, you can only use 1 RTM, right?
No, you can use 3. As I explained earlier, Harshit, in our discussion, if you go with 3 players that you're retaining, then the remaining 3 can be used as RTMs.
Okay. interesting, because that's really going to make things very, very juicy, make things very, very exciting when it comes to the auction. Let's just quickly get into some of the questions as well that we have over here. Sarthak Arya saying it's sorted for the Mumbai Indians. It's going to be Jasprit Bumrah at 18 crores, Hardik Pandya for 14. So that's what he feels. Ishan Kishan will be the third retention, Sky number 4, Rohit Sharma number 5, and maybe they'll save the RTM for somebody like a Tilak Verma. That is what he has to say. A lot of questions Dex wants to know about what DC retentions could look like. We've just spent some time, Dex, talking exactly about that. Let's take a look at some of the other questions that we have right now. Shubham Gar Singh, 4th and 5th retention amount will ensure players like Surya are not retained for 8 crores. With the side deals, ensures that some level of playing field for the others. That's a very interesting thought, I feel, that Shubham Garg has said. Also, this in many ways gives you the option or enables franchises to keep the players happy as well, because that is something that we've heard in the past, players not be happy with the way that they get, or the price at which they get retained for. But now if you're retaining more, you pay more as well.
Yeah, but then options always open for a player not to agree for that retention. I mean, that is something that has to be mutually agreed. A player is always open to go back into an auction. You can't hold him to it. It's just an option that the teams have. I mean, and the other thing is, whether you like it or not, we are looking at these retentions on the face of it. Yes, that's the money that exchanges hands between the two players. Effectively, it's the money that comes out of the purse for the team. So the only way it dents a team is that, okay, from my 120 crore total purse, you've taken out 18 and 14 and 11 or whatever you have. What real amount is, you and I would never know. I mean, there are other ways of making payments. We know that it's a fact that you sign them on as brand ambassadors or get them to do some promotional work. You can make payments through that, which is not illegal. It's just skirting around the whole rule. So yes, I mean, for the purpose of fair play, at least you've kept a marker so that lesser spending team also are into the game, because eventually 120 is what you have to play around with. To a certain extent, that ensures fair play, but then over and all, you can do it. So if a player doesn't want to stay, we spoke about Mumbai Indians, but if there's a player that doesn't want to stay, he can obviously opt out. Whether he does that or not is another thing, but he can opt out.
Right. Let's dive into some of the other comments that we have. Plenty of questions trickling in right now. Okay, I think we've taken that one from Sarthak Arya. Priyanshu says that these rules are going to benefit the Mumbai Indians, KKR, SRH. By the way, SRH, the other team that Nikhil was also pointing out, much like PBKS, who've made this cardinal sin again and again of having the right pool of players, but not being very smart with their retentions. But he adds them in the same breath as KKR, MI. Who are going to be benefiting the most. He also says that Mumbai can now retain their core. Dhoni would be... Shom, you'll have to scroll up. Yeah, he says Dhoni will be wait, it's gone again. Yeah, Dhoni will be an uncapped player. Teams can also use 6 RTMs if they do not make any retention. That's right. That's exactly what we just broke down for you. But it's still not official yet whether Dhoni can be retained as an uncapped player, as Priyanshu is also pointing out in the comments right now. So we await.
I think we mentioned this, Harshit. I don't think Priyanshu was listening, but I did clarify that is exactly what they are going to be doing. You will get to know that we spent some time discussing that they are looking at doing that. Once the official confirmation comes, we'll know. But they are looking at
that exactly. It's being deliberated upon. That is the request that came in from.
It is going to be. It is going to be that. That is going to be the case that you're going to hear. Just as we pointed out, there are going to be 5 retention, 1 right to match. Similarly, I think the reports that we're getting is that they are going to go with that 5 years retirement,
So,
which is great news for CSK.
so Dhoni qualifies as an uncapped player.
Yes.
Okay.
Nikhil, I don't think he will qualify as an uncapped player for this season, IPL 2025, because see, he retired in August 2020. And if I have to, add 5 years to that, it has to be after August 2025. I don't think, that would be the case for this season, which means that Dhoni could be one of the retentions.
No, it is 5 years. No, he retired in
19.
from international cricket when
19. No, 20.
August 2020. August 2020.
So that I think would qualify. Yeah, we're nitpicking as to when that 5 year happens, right? This is from 2020, so I don't think they're going to look at months per se. May look at calendar year. But anyway, we'll get to know exactly what happens if that is the thing or not. By the way, the Indian team for the T20 squad versus Bangladesh has been announced. Do you want to come back with that? Let's come back with a different video on that.
Sure. We'll wrap up this one. But in case you are with us, we've got details on India's squad for the T20I series starting the 6th of October. So we'll get you details on that one. Interesting to see who are going to be those players who are going to be rested and who get the nod. So stay with us. We'll be back very shortly.